Good evening. Thanks so much for being here. As I mentioned, I'm Stesha Brandon, the Literature and Humanities Program Manager at the Seattle Public Library. And as we begin today, I would like to acknowledge that we are on Indigenous land. These are the traditional unceded territories of the Coast Salish people, specifically the Duwamish people. We honor their elders past and present and thank them for their stewardship of this land. Welcome to today's program with Nicole Song and Irie Love, presented in partnership with Elliott Bay Book Company. We'd like to thank Author Series sponsor Gary Kunis and the Seattle Times for their generous support of library programs. And we're also grateful to our friends at the Seattle Public Library Foundation. Private gifts to the foundation from thousands of donors help the library provide free programs and services that touch the lives of everyone in our community. I have just a couple of quick announcements before we get started. First, the wonderful folks at Elliott Bay Books have copies of Nicole's new book, 24 Ways to Move More, and they are open for limited browsing or for curbside pickup or delivery. And you can order Nicole's book through their website, and that is elliottbaybook.com. And our wonderful staff person has just posted that link in the chat as well. So elliottbaybook.com, and you can find Nicole's book as well as a lot of other wonderful things there. I also wanted to let you know that after the conversation has concluded, we are going to have time for your questions, and you can type your questions in the Q&A box that's at the bottom of your screen anytime during the program, and that's just at the bottom, and it says Q&A on the little icon there, so you can pop your questions in anytime. And now I'm delighted to welcome our speakers. So, known for her accessible and playful approach to fitness, health, and wellness, Nicole Song wrote the popular Fit for Life column in the Seattle Times for more than 6 years and is the author of Yoga for Hikers and Yoga for Climbers. She has taught strong, essential yoga classes for more than a decade and consults also as a success coach. Nicole will be talking with Irie Love. Irie worked as a touring musician before focusing on pursuing a full-time fitness career. She now combines her love of music and fitness to inspire and empower others to their highest potential. Irie's current project is a collective and podcast, WATR, which stands for We Are the Root, and that's spelled W-A-T-R when you're looking for that. And WATR looks at shifting the narrative for positive change. It's hosted alongside her fitness brother, Earl Benjamin, and it just premiered on January 1st. Congratulations. And is available on most platforms. I think it's on YouTube and Spotify and Stitcher and some of those other podcasting platforms. And it's spelled WATR, W-A-T-R, when you're looking for it. And it's available every Friday. So they are going to be discussing Nicole's new book, 24 Ways to Move More, Monthly Inspiration for Health and Movement. The book invites readers to try new types of movement and to get active in new ways. It includes a roadmap for readers starting at beginner level and moving up through reach and adventure goals. And it sounds like a ton of fun. So please help me welcome Nicole Song and Irie Love. Hi, you guys.
Hi. Thank
Hi,
you.
thanks, Sasha.
Yes. Nicole.
Hi, hello.
Nicole and I are actually yoga sisters. We both also teach yoga at Be Luminous Yoga, so you can catch our classes there as well. So yes, let's talk about this amazing and perfectly divined time of a book that you've written. I want to first start off by finding out why you wrote this book.
Why wrote the book? Oh, that is a vast question, Irie.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really, I think as a writer, it's sort of always percolating a little bit. And once you get over the hump of writing your first book, that it's just always sort of present there to be like, oh, what might be next? What could possibly be? And I was actually with another one of my movement teachers, Katie Bowman, who is I talk about pretty a lot in the book. And she actually said to me, she's like, well, why don't you, this is when my column was ending. And she's like, well, why don't you actually compile what you wrote and put it into a book? And I was like, oh, that would make a lot of sense. Like I should totally do like the 6 years effort should totally come into a book. And so I talked to my publisher, Mountaineers Books, about it, and we kind of came up with this format and this idea really of getting people to move more frequently. And part of it also came from a lot of readers who would always email me and tell me, oh man, you do so many things. So there was like that school of like, I can't do all those things. But there was also a school of people who would occasionally try stuff and tell me that they did it because of the column. And I thought it would be really fun to put something together also that could help people on both sides, like the ones who didn't think they could do it, as well as the ones who were inspired enough to go try some things, and then just get people all in general moving more and doing a lot of the things that I got to do with my column.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a wonderful book. I'm excited to try all the different things that are in there and things that I saw in there that reminded me that I've tried. It's really fun to kind of go back and see what you've done in your life and what you can revisit. So, yeah. Another question: why 2 activities per month on top of 10,000 steps a day? So that's for those who don't know, that's in the book. So.
Yes. So for those of you who don't know, I like to walk. I like to walk a lot. I think walking is really one of the most important things you can do for movement.
Yeah.
And one of the things I think that I know for myself that really shifted over the course of the column, and what I really wanted to get for folks, like you can notice the book's not called 24 Ways to Exercise,
Right.
right? And so the idea is really around how do you start to open your mind around what movement is and what's natural for your body. And walking is actually something that's really inherently natural. And so the more we start to actually move our bodies through walking generally, that is to me like a foundational thing. So even if you weren't doing all the other movements, if you were just walking every day, I would be so stoked. I'd be like, yes, you're doing it. You're walking every day, and you're really starting to treat your body well by doing that. So there's that piece of it. And then, originally my editor thought we should maybe do 52 movements a year. And I was like, you should all thank me because I saved you. And they said, no, that is a terrible idea. Nobody can do that. I could barely do that on deadline being paid for my column, right? Like it was a lot. And so I was like, no, 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 let's just make this realistic for normal people who don't, aren't doing this for their job, to actually try something and feel inspired. So we're like, okay, I said, let's try 2 a month because that felt reasonable, to actually give yourself 2 classes or two something just 2 times in 30, 31 days felt reasonable. Although I do really ask everyone to try giving it a chance twice, because I often find the first time if something's hard or difficult that you have a hard time liking it right away. Like unless you're someone
Right.
who naturally likes to move all the time, you will probably be like, ugh, that hurt, or I'm sore and I didn't pick up those dance steps. And so give it another whirl before you really come to any kind of conclusion, because otherwise you might just like not be giving it a fair shot. So that was really the format and the idea. And then the idea also was to try new things. Like the goal is not for you to master anything, because that's really what I was for 6 years. I was master of nothing. Like I did not do anything more than one. I only did everything once. And so I really couldn't, I was really good at being a beginner. And that was the other kind of intention of the book, is helping us as humans to start to understand what it's like to try new things and to actually be kind of terrible at it at the beginning, because I was terrible at so many things during the course of my column. And it actually, I think, really gave me a lot of resilience that helped me a lot, honestly, during the pandemic, that I was really good at going to do new things and being pretty bad at it. And so I didn't really have expectations. Like I didn't ever think I was going to be good at things. I was like, well, I've never done this, so how could I possibly be good at it?
Right.
And then in the middle of the pandemic, we were making all these adjustments to our lives. And I was like, well, I don't know how to do this either, but whatever, let's just give it a try. Like, I think it really helps you get better. Like, it's something where I really always encourage people that I work with, like in my work life balance coaching business, to like keep trying new things, because it's important also as adults, we get into this idea that we're supposed to be good at things already, and we're not supposed to actually expand ourselves outside of the realm of things that we know. And if you can start to do it through movement and challenge yourself a little bit that way, the cool thing is it starts to actually apply to the rest of your life, and you start to actually get better at being open and being able to change things and being able to shift more quickly. And I really think that that's what this column ultimately gave me, was understanding how to be a beginner. And I think it's actually really underrated as an adult. Like as a kid, all you do is try new things and you just think
Right.
it's so normal.
Yeah.
And then you get to be an adult, we're like, no, we do 2 things and then that's it.
Right.
That's it. I don't do anything else, right? Especially with movement or any part of your life. And so then now it's like, okay, try that Afro Brazilian class
Right.
and see
Yeah.
how it goes, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's a real encouragement to just be more adventurous, I think. which is really beautiful because we don't have so many reminders of that. So it's a beautiful way to encourage people to kind of continue to thrive throughout the different stages of our lives, which is really cool.
For
Yeah. So
sure.
also another great thing about the book is the workbook journaling format.
Mhm.
So why did you choose to add that feature?
Yeah. It came out of really for me, I feel like so for a long time I was like I did a lot on movement as a kid and it, I mean I say a lot, but I tried lots of different things, but I wasn't a particular like I didn't really consider myself an athlete or a mover. Um I feel like I want to tell you this whole story, but I also want to pause because I want to show you some pictures. Is that
Yes.
cool? Yeah, okay. So don't let me
Ooh.
forget where I was going with this movement during thing. But I just want to share with you a few, like, just, my childhood movements was
Yes.
definitely my mom wanting me to do sort of what I considered like more like girly kind of movements, like ballet and ice skating and things like that. So when I was a kid, I'm just going to show you all a little quick, a couple of slides of when I was a mover as a kid, or how I moved as a kid. And this is me. I think this is ballet class. I looked at this and I was like, she's wearing a tutu. So I'm pretty sure we were in ballet. So I took ballet as a kid. My mom put us in ballet and then in ice skating. And that was really what I did when I was little.
Wow.
Um, yeah, and and they were not in my head when I was a little kid in particular. I really felt like move like athletes, and I'm air quoting athletes, were like the kids who played like softball or soccer, like the more sort of like what I considered assertive kinds of movements. But this one, like I was an ice skater, like I competed in ice
Wow.
skating, and so I did these things, and I think it gave me great balance. But that was pretty much it. And then when I went into high school, I started to play tennis, and so I dug up my high school yearbook. There's me in the front. Can you tell?
Yes.
Little black and white photo of me
So good.
playing tennis. And so, I moved as a kid. Like I definitely moved as a kid, but I don't know if I necessarily found it fun
Mm,
or if I found it to be or felt even actually particularly athletic. So I'm just gonna
okay.
end the share on that one. So I think for myself, like I didn't really associate it with anything. And then I went into my 20s and I took a job, I was a journalist and I was working all day every day. And I just started to associate movement with the gym. Like I just started to do, I'm going to go do the elliptical for 30 minutes and like read a magazine. And it was
Right.
honestly the most boring thing ever. So I didn't like going. Like I would go, but I would go for like 45 minutes and I'm like, I'm done. I'm just gonna go home. And I
Right.
didn't really feel excited about it ever. Like it was just so for me, I feel like that this happens a lot when you're an adult. You're like, how am I supposed to exercise while I have a job all day? And that's what most of us know, because that's what our culture tells us. Like go to the gym, lift some weights, do an elliptical and call it that. So for me, what really started to change is actually when I started a yoga practice. And I did it when I moved to Seattle, and I really started to practice regularly. And it became this thing where I actually like it was so hard. I don't know if you remember your first yoga class, Irie, but it's like you are shaking, your muscles are shaking, and you're like, this is the most. I don't know what
Right.
I'm doing, right? It's so hard, and they're asking you to move your body parts in directions you didn't think that they could go, and they're doing all this stuff, and it's so difficult. And then you get to be in shavasana at the end, and basically, in my mind at the time, I was like, I get to take a nap at the end of this, and this is the best. And so then I would come out of it and be like, this is like the best thing ever. And then it was the first time I actually started to fall in love with like moving my body.
Mm,
And what I realized over time is like what I was doing was I was connecting much more deeply to myself. And
yeah.
that to me is actually what movement ultimately is. It's like this connection to yourself, but I didn't really understand it until I started to do yoga. And then what I realized after doing yoga for a while is that when I started to do the column and I tried other things, that I actually could get that experience in lots of types of movements. Like I would have this experience of connection to my body and to like my muscles and my strength. And it really helped me. It became this discovery experience for
Yeah.
myself of like, who am I? What am I doing on the planet? Why am I here? Like all of these things. And it
Right.
really led me on this trajectory to leave the newspaper to, start to become a yoga teacher and now to run my own business and be an entrepreneur. And so that whole experience for me was like this very big internal journey. And I've now remembered what question you asked me, which is around the questions in the book. And so, but that was really why I wanted people to answer some questions, because I really feel that movement is an inward journey.
Mhm.
It is at its very heart an inward journey, because honestly movement is who we are. Like like it's what makes us human. It's part of our design and how we are actually supposed to be on the planet. Like we're not designed to be in front of computers hunched over all the time. Like we're designed to actually, it's why it feels really good to
Yeah.
be outdoors. And
Mhm.
so I wanted people to, but I don't want, I want each person to have their own individual journey that way. And so I wanted anyone to read the book and to try things and then just start to examine what happens and how they feel and what their experience is in movement.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think of the word empowerment when you say that, like
Mhm.
movement empowers us, you know, it
Mhm.
reminds us that we are all, not just in these bodies, but so much more that's encased within the body. And so when we begin to move, it's kind of like tapping in and activating those deeper layers of the subtle bodies. And then,
Right.
of course, being able to journal that is such a great way to really analyze what you're experiencing on a deeper level. So that's a beautiful feature to add for sure.
Yeah.
Um, what was your biggest challenge when it comes to movement in your daily life?
Like just being able to, just going in general.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, you talked about the treadmill thing and like the monotony
mhm.
of just like doing something that's not exciting.
Yeah.
But what do you feel as far as like what is the biggest challenge that you can think of that kind of really inspired you to want to like create this book and have like all these different
Mhm.
means of movement?
I think motivation, like just motivating to do it was always the hardest. Like if I think back to the very beginning, and this is when I was working at the Seattle Times full time, and then I was going to yoga 3 days a week. And it was a lot of effort to go to
Mhm.
yoga 3 days a week. Like I'd fight traffic to Ballard, and then I'd be like, trying to park and then run into this yoga class. And I felt all stressed out. And I'm like, I'm running to yoga stressed out. This is like not the point. And so I think that was part of it. And then so like that kind of motivation was difficult at the beginning of like getting work done and just making sure those things could happen and figuring it out. And even today too, like I have days too, like I get sucked into my couch and I'm like,
Yeah.
I'd rather just sit here for a while than get up. Right. And so I've had to just kind of come up with like little tips for myself and little tricks to try to like get myself to go. And I think part of it too for me these days is I actually know on the other side of it how much better I feel. And I
Mm,
think that's probably one of the challenge for most people. If you don't move that frequently, it can be hard. Or if you're just haven't been moving enough to feel good moving. Like moving is really difficult or challenging. It can be so it can be hard to remember on the other side how much better you feel after you do it. And
right.
so that's part of it. I think for a lot of people is like I want people to try things and then find something that actually helps them feel like it's fun and
Mm,
that they're motivated, because if it's fun, they'll be more likely to go. Because that's always been me too. It's like I didn't think anything was fun until I liked hiking a lot, but even that's like a big effort, a big motivation. And yoga was the first thing that I found that was like concise, packaged in a way that I could just go take a class, and I really liked it. And then it was easier for me to want to go. And then the more I find more things that I like, it makes it easier for me to be excited about it.
right.
Uh, yeah.
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 I think that's probably most people's challenge. I know from my personal experience as well. It's like the motivation to just get
Mhm.
it done because I always, this is like my mantra is like, I never come off my mat or off my bike or out of a hike feeling like, oh, I wish I didn't do that, you
Right.
know? Like
Exactly.
but it's just, there's such a mind game that goes on.
Oh,
Get
it's
there and
crazy. You can have this
start.
whole war with yourself and nothing has
Yes,
happened. You're just sitting there
totally.
battling yourself around moving instead of just moving, which actually will make you feel better, right?
Right.
But all of us have it. Everybody I know,
Yeah.
myself included. Yeah.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. What was the most challenging activity in the book and the most fun, in your opinion?
Um, Challenge depends on your definition of challenge.
True.
So the challenge for me mentally is dance. So like I'd say the hip hop dance is
Mm.
probably the most mentally challenging because choreography I find super difficult. Like
Same.
I am like, I had like this look on my face like through an entire dance class because I'm focused, right? So that it's hard in that like my brain can barely wrap around like what are we doing here, right?
Right.
But physically challenging, I'd say the kickboxing is like,
Mhm.
whew, it
Yeah.
kicks your butt. Like you just go, they'd be like 50 more, and you're like, I'm
Wow.
already dying, and they're like, here, do more. And so that, in terms of like straight up, like super intense physical challenge, I would
Mm.
say kickboxing.
Yeah.
Um, and then for most fun, I feel like it just varies depending on my day or my mood. I think trampoline is insanely fun.
Oh.
It's one of the ones I'm most excited for when COVID's done, is to like go back to a trampoline center. Um, and roller skating, both of which are indoor. So I love roller skating. I think it's super fun. And roller skating is inherently fun. Like if you get, especially here, like I go to the South Center, White Center, Southgate, they have like really fun roller skating nights. And so you have music and like all the lights and all these things flashing. And so to me, those are really fun and they're very social.
Yeah.
Like roller skating with friends is super fun. And so those ones I think are really great just
Yeah.
because, I don't know, for me, I'm not good at either of them, but they're just really fun.
Yeah, I actually built a trampoline for my niece and nephew at the very beginning of COVID. They're 5 years old, 5-year-old twins. But I just remember the last time I went to one of those trampoline places was with my younger sister and her friends, and Auntie Irie sprained her ankle. So sometimes we just have to be mindful of like staying at our own pace.
I would say I put this warning in the book on trampoline, warm up slowly. Because the thing is, you get on a trampoline, you're like, this is so fun. And then you start jumping as high as possible. And that is when you can potentially sprain your ankle. So you want to just give yourself a little warm up
Yeah. I
before
mean, and
you
it
do
was one of those places, where you're jumping to the different
that. So
trampolines.
fun. They're so fun.
So fun. I
So
love
fun.
anything that like awakens the inner child in me again, because that level of joy, I think
Mhm.
we don't realize how much we miss it and how accessible it is just by like tapping into these type of movements that we did as a
Yeah.
kid. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's the biggest thing for me always with people is like I want people to have more of that experience of joy. I think that exercise again gets put into this box of like I have to or I'm supposed to or I'm going to lose weight or whatever it is and I'm like but your body wants to move. Like it is
Totally.
literally made to move. It used to go hunt and gather and do all these things and so it actually wants to be active. And
Right.
if you and really there's all these other things that can get in the way and block us from wanting to move, but once we do it like it just that's when like things can start to pop for you. Like I have this one client where she was working in a healthcare environment, so she was still going to work during COVID, and then she had a 2-year-old, and just like all the things were happening that felt
Yeah.
very intensely stressful. And so we just got her walking again, and then all of a sudden she had more energy and she was like eating better and making smoothies and doing things for herself again. And I just find for people like if you can just find that one thing, it doesn't have to be fancy and it doesn't have to be a class, but just like one thing to move, that's where the other side of energy is. And that's when we can start to sustain ourselves, which I think has been a really important thing to start to figure out this last year in particular, that people have been so isolated or taxed or overburdened. And to me, it's like movement is such a huge form of de-stressing and
Mm,
that connection piece. And if we can get over this idea that it's like a burden or hard, you actually can start to move to this other side where you're like, oh, it's fun.
right.
And then I actually like my life better, because like I get to move and I feel energetic and vital again.
Yeah, absolutely. I think even in in my apartment, being able to move for 30 minutes on like taking my friends virtual classes. There's like so many classes that have been modified for people being at home now, which is really beautiful.
Mhm.
And not only the sense of connection that we can have from moving together, but just moving for 30 minutes, what the way that it can change your mood
Mhm.
is astonishing to me sometimes. I don't even realize sometimes that I'm in a lower vibrational mood
Mhm.
until I move. And then I'm like, oh, this is how I'm supposed to
Right.
feel.
I'm supposed to feel good. Yeah, totally.
Right.
Totally.
So yeah,
And you're
um,
not alone, Irie. I think so many people have felt
yeah,
that way, right? Which is why like I'm so glad the book came out when it did. Because I think a lot of people, I know
totally.
people who've like, I didn't move for 9 months. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. Just start
Yeah,
today. Like
right.
just make that one shift, go for a 15-minute walk. Like I'm totally incremental with people, especially my clients. I'm like, we're not here to win races. We are here to like for the long term of your life to feel
Yeah,
happy and connected to yourself. So give yourself, go for around the block. Like,
Yeah.
just don't make this a big complicated thing. Super simple, and then see how you feel on the other side, right?
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, I mean, just to reiterate, I think this is, you kind of covered it in bits and pieces, but I'm going to ask this last question and then I'll
Mhm.
dive into the Q&A. So if anyone has any questions for Nicole, you can pop into the Q&A and I'll try to get to as many of those as we can. But just your overall message that you were trying to convey with this book.
Mhm. That movement is actually fun.
Mm,
The movement is fun. I think that there is this message that is often sent out there in our culture that movement is hard, or it has to be a certain way,
mm,
or that you have to punish yourself for it to be worth it. Like that there, to me, I think of movement is like something that I'm doing all throughout my day. And so it's not a punishment. It's just sort of like it helps me. Like I have, and I own my own business. So I have some more luxury with time, and I take a 2 hour break because for me, 3 4 hours in the morning working, I need space in my head. And so I take a walk with my dog. Like
yeah,
it just happens. And that if we can start to just shift the ideas that we have around movements and to make it fun. And the way to make it fun is to try enough things. And you have 24 options in my book. It's find something that is fun for you. You'll be so much more likely to do it. And then you can start to see the benefits of it, right? Rather than putting to me, it's like it's not a checklist, it's not a to do, it's
mm,
just sort of an essential part of being able to like live, and we live in very tumultuous times right now. So to me, it's like anything you can do to help yourself feel better and to feel more excited and energized in your life. And again, to like then to start to follow purpose and calling, to me it requires a really expansive sense of resilience around yourself. And so movement to me is like really one of the key ways I feel I was able to be in 2020 and like have and still actually have a pretty good sense of myself through that whole year. That it was just like it helped me stay connected to myself. I actually did more yoga probably than I had done in years last
mm,
year because I was at home and I was like, it's on my Zoom. I'm just gonna take a class, and it just helped me. Like I just felt better breathing
yeah,
and being in my body, and walking and doing all the things with my dog, and like that I think is sort of my ultimate thing is like if you move, to give yourself a chance to find something fun so that you can do something that actually helps you,
right.
right? And that's how I think of movement.
Yeah, I love that. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Um, I'm so grateful for people like you who are able to put this kind of information out and reminders. So I'm grateful for this book. Yeah.
Thank you.
So
I'm
I'm
so glad
super
to hear it.
excited to tap into the different things. But yeah, let's try to get some of these questions from our guests. Let's see. S Brandon or Sprandon, it looks like. Could be one word. From Summer. What is your perspective on workout tracker apps, and what workout competitions on different trackers with others, i.e. Apple Watch and Fitbit?
Mm. Yeah, I have gone through a couple of Fitbits and some other kinds of trackers. So I don't have, I've heard the ones that are really effective are like Garmin, like sort of more hardcore ones. I've only used sort of like the more what I consider like casual tracker ones. I find them not to be that durable. So I've actually just given up on them because batteries die, things break, stuff over time. But I do like to know my steps. And so my phone, I use my phone. And then you can use free apps, the phone, like the app that's on your phone, or you can download a free app. And I just like to know what my step count mileage is. I'm not like that hardcore about it. If you're a runner, I know that that's different. Like there's heart rate and all these other things and
Right.
pacing and things that are happening. And I'm not that person because I should probably have put that in one of my most challenging things is running, the trail running. Like I'm not that big on running in general. Um, but it's so for people who run, you're probably not in that category. But everybody else, to me, like whatever is built in already in your phone is actually pretty effective at telling you how far you've moved every day and actually having gotten you.
So
Yeah.
like on
Pretty
your
far.
iPhone, like the health app and stuff?
Yeah, the health app, you have been tracked for years I mean, I hope you already knew that, that
Right.
your phone is tracking you, but it is also tracking your steps. So it's
Yeah.
tracking your steps. So you have years of step count in there, or whatever, however long you've had your phone. And so I remember when I first started tracking my steps, and first started trying to get to 10,000, and I was like, oh, it can't be that bad. And my average probably was like 5,000 before I was intentional about walking 10,000 every
Wow.
day.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just not, it doesn't take a lot to hit that much, but you do have to focus on it because we live in a culture that does not encourage very much walking. And
Right.
so you have to, if you can take 2 30-minute walks a day, you'll probably hit 10,000 pretty easy. But if
Okay.
you don't take those walks, you definitely won't. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like you have to like put some effort and energy
Intention.
into it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I like it for that. And then, all the other stuff that's out there, if it motivates you, I'm kind of like, if it helps you, do it. Like if it helps you move, if you get that little buzz that says get up and it's going to help you do it, like I'm all for that stuff. But I wouldn't say that, but I don't like have it for myself. Like I don't use it that much myself.
Mm.
Yeah.
Okay. Question from Dawn. How do I motivate a partner without being a nag?
That's such a good question.
Yeah.
Well, I guess my question would be for you is that, is there anything that you can tell that they like to do or don't like to do? So I think, again, this is where the idea of the gym, I think, can be very difficult for people. Like they think that that's the only way to move. And so if they like, you could just say, hey, let's take a little walk after dinner and just see, and just say, and I would say, instead of, probably, if you are having challenges getting your partner to move, you might be trying to overstretch how much you're trying to get them to move. Like, we're going to take a whole hour walk after dinner. For somebody who's not interested in that might not be part of it. So say they're like, no, I want to watch a show. Hey, let's just do 15 minutes. Like, we'll just digest 15 minutes. I want to tell you about my day, and then come back and we'll watch the show. You know what I mean? Like, and just an incremental. Like I always tell all my clients, like, we have to go incremental. Like, we're not here to do rocket science and and build the whole day of movement. Like, one of my clients was really stressed at work a lot, and then she realized that they were right next to a park, and so I said, okay, like, can you walk during your lunch hour?
Yeah.
And she wasn't taking very long walks, I don't think, like 15-20 minutes, but it really helped center her because she was feeling really stressed about her job and making a change. And
Mm.
those walks really helped her when she got a job she was super excited about and could transition. And then she'd already built into her day something that helped her stay pretty steady. So that's the kind of thing I'd say in general in your life. It's like, don't make it huge, just pick something simple,
Right.
especially especially with partners. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's great advice for sure.
Yeah.
We definitely tend to have like this urge to like overachieve, especially when you're like really want somebody to do something. So
Yeah.
that's great advice to just say, hey, what about just walk
Well, and
around our
and
building
this is
twice?
Well, and then this is the funny thing too. So in the work that I do with people, we're really about stretching yourself in your goals and like getting into purpose and connection to what it is you're doing. It's like,
Mhm.
that's what I do. Like, I write books and I do all that stuff. But there are studies that show that, it says, I think it was 92% of people who set New Year's resolutions or goals don't hit them. It's only 8% who succeed. But
Wow.
one of the I know. I looked up the stat and I knew it was kind of bad, but I was like, it's that bad. And it's a study like by the University of Scranton.
Yeah.
Anyway, but one of the ways they tell you to actually start to hit goals is to start setting realistic ones.
Mm.
But the way I think of realistic goals is on the daily basis. Like, so for myself, even when writing a book, if I sat down every day and I thought about, I'm going to write, a 200-page book, I would have been completely overwhelmed. But if I thought, like, this week I'm going to write 500 to 1,000 words, then I could do it. Right. So I think of walking or a movement or a class, all of it's the same way. Like, I'm trying to get better at tap. I don't take tap 5 days a week. I take it once because that's about all I can handle. My brain maxes, and I'm like, that's it. And then I got to go do something else I feel better about. And then I can come back to tap again. Yeah. So it's like, it's just like, don't chunk off like these crazy things for yourself, or you're just not going to make it, but do
Yeah.
it little bit by little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. Balance.
Balance. Yes.
Find the balance.
Yeah.
Summer has another question.
Yes.
What is your favorite activity you've tried that has been accessible during this pandemic?
that I've tried during the pandemic.
Mm.
Gosh, what have I done? So I have done, I feel like I actually ended up, a lot of the things that I like to do are happening online in the pandemic. So I would say, so I've been taking my tap class online. Fitness classes have all been online. Yoga has been online. And then, I hike a lot in the summer. I feel like during the pandemic, what did it do for me around movement? I always already walk a lot. Like that was always my savior for sure during this whole period. I actually think I challenged myself a little bit more with hiking this year because I like to Olympic weightlift and my gym was shut for a lot of the time. And so my challenge, I just had to like kind of approach challenge a little differently. And so I pushed myself probably more with hiking. I don't know that I was as creative probably as I wanted to be. I had a period where I was trying classes from yoga teachers like all over the country. Like that for me was super fun because like I had a lot of friends in other cities. And so I
Yeah.
would take their classes and that was actually really, really fun. But I actually felt like a few months ago that my creativity had really gone down in movement. Like I was feeling like I was like, God, I'm doing the same things. And so my tap class started up, and so I had started taking tap again. And I've been trying to debate whether I should take a hip hop dance class or Afro Brazilian this month because I feel like I need a little bit of creative juices with movement.
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's been definitely a beautiful silver lining of the pandemic is to be able to connect with people from all over the world, even because it's all online.
absolutely,
Yeah,
for
that's
sure.
really cool.
Yeah.
A question from Jen. Any tips for finding good hikes that aren't packed with people these days? The trails have been so busy.
They are busy.
Yeah.
They are busy. I wish I had some good tips, but then that would send everyone. I know, I'm kidding. I don't. There's like
True.
there's arguments on the online like hiker communities about this. Um, I I feel like I am really like for me when it's crowded. I'm just going to go this route because I don't have tips for that. I don't actually know how to find non-crowded hikes. I think that all hikes close to Seattle are just going to be crowded.
Yeah.
There's if you go online, there's some people who can give you like directions for how to find the less popular ones. But I think that what I find, so I went to Little Sai, those of you know it, it's really close to Seattle, and I went there like a month ago, and it was like peak summer crowded. Like it was so many people, and it was like middle of winter, and normally it's like empty at that time. And I when I go out there and there's just a lot of people, I'm just like I'm happy. I'm like, okay, good. Like more people, to me, like the pandemic has shown a lot more people different ways to move or different ways to socialize or be with people. And I'm like, I'm glad because it's like the more people who are out in nature, the better people feel. Like there's actually also studies around that, that if you spend 2 hours in nature, the effect on your mind and your mental health is really significant. And so
Mm,
to me, it's like if people are out there and like, and I get it, like everyone, people are really stressed right now. There's a lot going on in the world
yeah.
that if they can find 2 hours outside and that decompression is helping them be better parents or better partners or better people at work or whatever it is, like good,
Yeah.
like I'm happy. So I'm like, I'd rather have people out there than not,
Right.
even though the crowds can like, it can feel a little intense if you're used to hikes that are not so crowded. But
Yeah.
I kind of try to go that route instead.
Yeah, I know I've definitely taken full advantage of being in the Pacific Northwest during the pandemic. I did about 2 to 3 hikes a week for most of 2020, which was really awesome, especially during the summertime. It's just gorgeous. And just my personal tip was to try to go in off times. So
Right.
even if you have to wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning, to have the hike to basically to your not to yourself, it's a whole mountain, you're going to see some people but not crowded at all. I was pretty good at avoiding crowds for most of the year. I think I went maybe twice, there was a lot of people, and it's because I went like on a Saturday at noon. So finding
I
those
yeah.
times.
I already come in with a save because I wasn't off time hiking. So I was always in the crowds this last year. I was always like, oh, let's just all walk around each
Oh
other
my
as much
god.
as possible.
Stress energy on a hike is dangerous because people can fall.
Yes,
So you have to really tap into your zen when there's lots of
yes,
people, for sure.
yes.
There's so many questions, and I feel like I want to find something that's hasn't really been asked yet. But This question is for both of us. How has our work changed with the pandemic?
How's your work change? Well, I mean, I can answer that one first.
Yeah,
And I think it depends on what they're asking about work, whether it's
right.
yoga. And for me, it's like my coaching business.
Mm,
I feel like with yoga, it's changed in that I don't have to run around quite as much. And then it's online. But to me, I have found, well, it's not the same as being in person. It is possible to have really deep connection online. And so I still find myself feeling very connected in many different ways with people in my yoga communities.
yeah.
And then I would say with my coaching business, actually, I have found a lot of people coming to me because they're feeling ready for change,
Mm,
that the pandemic showed them that the way things were working weren't working for them. Like once they got to have that shift home, they're like, well, I don't know why I do this. Like, is this the right career for me? Is this the right place for me to be? And so I've actually found a lot of people have been coming to me because they want to make that shift into like, why are you here? And how does, how do they start to access that? Right. And so movement obviously is a huge piece of it, but I have been finding people really hungry for saying, okay, like the world is kind of chaotic. I never know when anything is going to happen or change. So like let me actually figure things out for myself now. So I found my work has changed that way.
Well, that's awesome. For me, that's another silver lining, I think, for us to all have like time of reflection to really reassess our lives and figure out what's working and what's not working. And more than ever, people have been doing a lot of like self work. And I think
Mm.
from my perspective, we have to work on that first before we can really affect the rest of humanity. I think there's a lot
Yes.
of like, we want things to change and we want people to be different, but it's like, what am I doing? Because that's within my reach. So
Mhm.
that's beautiful that you're able to assist people on that journey in that way. So
Yeah, it's been a very cool year on that level for me, at least.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I know before we started this, I was talking about how my yoga journey started online because I finished my in person yoga training in March. So it was literally just as things were shutting down. So it's been a very interesting dynamic to be able to tap into movement with people virtually without so much experience doing it in person. So, do you feel like for you, I know we talked about it, but just so that they can hear, like, what is your perspective on virtual versus in person and
For
how that
teaching.
differs? And yeah,
Yeah. I mean, I think the biggest thing I realized the other day, I was like, I haven't assisted adjusted students in, 9 months. And I'm like, do I know how to do that anymore? Because it's been so
right,
long. So like that,
right.
there's that actual shift. I think the only piece that I missed probably the most and is like the in between class banter and the chit chat.
Mm,
Like that piece, I feel for myself, it's always I love my students and my relationships with people in general, and so that part of it like has had to make we've had to be more intentional,
for
set
sure.
up times to actually talk to people versus just having that in passing piece.
Right.
And I think that's the piece I probably miss the most
Yeah.
from class. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely.
yeah.
I'm just grateful that we had the technology in place
Mm.
when everything happened because I can't even imagine what a different world, as different as it already has been, how much more different it would be if we didn't have the ability to still continue to connect and move together virtually. So I'm
Absolutely.
grateful for that.
Me too.
Okay, one last question from Donna. Can you showcase one or two movements that are in the book so that we can get an example?
Like, well, I can
Like for
tell you
someone
about
who
the
hasn't,
someone who's new to it, who hasn't done
yeah,
it.
yeah.
Yeah, totally. I can. Well, so the book itself has lots of great photos. By the way, I haven't talked about Erica Schultz, who's the photographer. She's phenomenal. She's an awesome photographer and amazing human who works for the Seattle Times. So there's lots of different ones you can start to try. So they're broken down into different chapters. Let's see, what is one that would work for everyone? Well, one of my favorites that I haven't really talked about is tree climbing.
Ah, yes.
And I love this one because it's really great for anybody and with families. And people are always like, where do you start? if you're in Seattle, in Volunteer Park are these beautiful old phenomenal trees that have been climbed forever.
Yeah.
Because you can see it, this bark is all smooth, and there's kids on it, and the parkour people jump all over them, and they're just such cool trees. And so if you're looking, and they're really low, so you can actually step up onto them.
Yeah.
So if you're starting to look for something simple to just move a little differently, I would suggest even trying that. And then if you can't get to Volunteer Park, look around your local park or nearby and see if there's trees that have some low branches to just start to play around a little bit. Is a really fun one. That's actually honestly one of my favorite, I think probably most surprising movements in the book is the tree climbing. And then let's see, there's so much good stuff in here. I'll say this even though it's winter. I saw stand-up paddlers out on Lake Washington the other day. It is possible to stand-up paddle in the winter.
Yeah.
And you can rent boards, you can get blow-up boards. I know a lot of people who have boards, so I just borrow boards from people. I would probably put on a wetsuit because it's cold right now, but like you could, if you don't know if you're gonna be able to stay on the board, get a wetsuit or something. But that one is fun too. It's like I know lots of people this past summer that was a huge way that they were moving, is just being on the water. And there's something very restorative and soothing to be out on the water and away from people and just being able to like paddle. It's just super calming. So that is another one I really love too.
Yeah, for sure. I've definitely still seen people out, especially even though it's cold. If the sun is out at all, people just hit the water.
Yes, totally.
So yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Nicole. It looks like that's
Yeah.
all the questions we have. And is there anything else that you wanted to add or that I didn't ask you to share?
Well, I just wanted to let you know I'm really grateful that you're all here. And I don't know if they popped it into the chat, but I had a little freebie for all of you, which is 3 simple ways movement helps you discover your purpose. And so that's in there for you to download for yourself just to have. And there's also a special actually calendar in there related to the book, which actually maps out. I really wanted all the movements in one contained place. And so Mountaineers Books helped create that PDF so that you can actually like mark it off. Like, oh, I did the first month is functional fitness and walking, and I tried it, and those kinds of things. And so that calendar is also in there. So if you download that first freebie, you'll get the calendar too. And I just like to, I like fun stuff like that to help me just stay on track especially if I'm trying to start to move more and go through the book as it's designed.
Totally. Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Irie.
Well, thanks to both of you. I am so inspired to get out there and to feel empowered moving. That's great. And for those of you who are asking, our staff person's popping the link to the freebie into the chat there, so you can check that out. And for those of you who are interested in reading Nicole's book, 24 Ways to Move More, it's available in print or digital formats through the library, and our website is spl.org. Or you can get it at the wonderful Elliott Bay Book Company. And as I mentioned before, they are open for limited browsing. You can go in and spend 30 minutes, soothing your soul that way. Or you can do curbside pickup or delivery. You can also order through their website, elliottbaybook.com. So thanks so much for being here, Irie and Nicole. And, this has just been a wonderful, inspiring evening. We're also grateful to our sponsors, the Seattle Public Library Foundation, the Gary and Connie Kunis Foundation, and the Seattle Times. And of course, thanks to all of you for joining us tonight. We'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.
Thank you all. So great to be here.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.